How much tin could a tin man tin if a tin man could tin tin? About that much. Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm in the process of cleaning the shop up again. I make it a pigsty, then I clean it up, then I make it a pigsty, then I clean it up. It's a process. How you guys doing today? Good afternoon, Donnie Walker. It's, I don't know, 35 degrees Celsius here. Not a cloud in the sky. How's everybody doing? You know, I love this community we have here. You guys teach me so much stuff. I love showing the videos where I fail or I bumble or stumble, because I'm just a guy like you guys out there. You guys and gals out there. There's no difference between me and you guys out there. I'm just a guy wrenching on saws in my shop, and I make mistakes. I do. I make mistakes. I break stuff. You know, I can guarantee to you every saw I build isn't perfect the first time, but I can guarantee you one thing. Ooh, click. When my saws leave here, they're the best that I can make them, and that's how I am. I will mess with a saw for months if I have to get it just right. That's just the kind of fella I am, and I will push limits to get them there. This video just popped into my mind. I was running my mower and mowing like I do every Saturday or once a week. I got to get out there and mow. I got 6 or 8 acres I mow here, and just, you know, there's a couple months where I got to mow steady, and then it kind of tapers off. So that time of the year, it's getting hot out, and I was reading, I was taking a water break, and I was reading comments and going through emails. Showing this carb not running properly was a good video. I enjoyed, you know, as a saw builder and a YouTuber, I plan videos right over the week. What am I going to do this weekend? I planned to run this saw. Well, as you guys saw, this carb was all over the place. A lot of comments that the saw was lean. Your saw is lean, your saw is lean. Here's the funny thing, guys, and again, just a fella, sometimes I leave things out of videos. Either I forgot to shoot them or I just forgot to mention it. This carb sounded lean, I agree. But here's the funny thing, friends. When I pulled the muffler off every time, it was rich, full of fuel. The spark plug was fouled. Weird, isn't it? That's why I kept leaning it out in a lot of those videos. The first video where I'm messing with it, now that was 3.5, 4 hours into my messing with trying to get the saw to run. I wasn't getting frustrated, but I was getting defeated. I'll admit that. At that point, it just, and it's funny, you would richen the saw up, and it wouldn't do anything, and then it would just chug fuel, and you'd wait, and then you'd lean it out, and then again, sometimes we get ahead of ourselves, or a saw kind of beats us. So, the second video, again, the saw was rich there, but it idled. I could throw it on the ground, restart it, it would just sit there and chug away. So, and then of course, by the last video you guys saw, it just, I'm fattening it up in that video like a full turn. It does nothing. I lean it out. The question is, I got a gazillion emails this week. Why? I don't know, friends. I mean, if I could figure out a way to make these aftermarket carbs work. Sorry, I just saw my beautiful wife through the window, and I was like, hello. If I could make these carbs work, I would. But the problem is, I haven't figured out why they don't work. I just know they don't work. All the ones that I get. I don't know what it is about them, but they seem to tune erratically, and they seem to lose their tune. Why? I don't know. The carb kit in here. A few of you said try a carb kit in it. I tried an OEM carb kit, and I tried an aftermarket carb kit. They both ran the same. What else did I try? Checking to see if the needles were deformed. I tried a vac test on the fuel inlet on the impulse. I tried to make this thing leak. I tried spraying carb cleaner around the shafts. They seem to be tight in there and they're not leaking. I mean, I did all the things. I actually raised the metering lever, which often you have to do on saws. I raised the metering lever and just to get it to settle down. And it is what it is. I'm going to bring you guys in close here. I want to show you guys. You guys ask me about metering levers all the time. What's the deal with a metering lever? Here you go. Since this carb is Garbaggio. Okay. Metering levers. So this is your... Hold on, I'm going to fix you guys. Okay. So you got your... This is a clone of a Tillotson carb, right? Here, let's take this carb apart. So you guys are very, very interested in this. And I'm interested in this kind of stuff. So the more feedback I get on videos and emails and stuff, the more I go, hey, like if I miss something, guys, and I don't mean if you disagree with how I'm doing something, that's okay. I'm never going to justify how I do things because I don't know. I do things the way I do them. But I mean, if you're genuinely interested in something, or maybe you didn't get it, you know, sometimes I'm going to be inclined to make another video on it if enough of you say, hey, like, you know, what's the deal there? Okay, so again, when you take this thing apart, it looks good. I sprayed through all the little orifices and the passages are clear, but the question is, are the passages the right size, drilled correctly? Probably not, obviously. Another thing I noticed, a lot of these aftermarket carbs, the shafts are bigger, okay? These shafts are bigger. I tried to take the shaft out of this, the throttle linkage, and put it in the other carb because to get this carburetor to run on here, I had to do modifications to Buckin's saw. So and it ran good the first time. I mocked it up and actually used my thumb as the throttle to start. The saw started, idled, and ran good. So I figured, okay, we'll make a new linkage. And I mean, I did have to modify the saw to get this to fit. It's not bolt-on. You'll see if you try this. Okay, so I was talking to a buddy about this morning. Okay, first thing, this is an aftermarket carb kit. These aftermarket Tillotson, when you take your OEM one out, check to make sure the height of these is correct. Sometimes they're too short or too long, okay? Now, if it's a little shorter or a little longer, adjust your metering lever accordingly. You guys picking up what I'm throwing down? I've never had a problem with an aftermarket Tillotson carb kit. They all seem to work. This is one carburetor kit that I don't have any issues with. Okay, so here's your metering lever, okay? Right here. You guys see what's going on here? I want to describe to you how a carb works, okay? And again, check out Donnie Walker's channel. He did a video on carburetors. That man's, Donnie Walker is a saw wrench. He's worked on, I wonder how many saws you've worked on, Donnie. 10,000, 20,000. It's the man's knowledge it's incredible. Okay, this goes up and down, right? Okay, remember, this works on vacuum, okay? That impulse line we put in, when the piston goes up, here guys, let's drop everything. Let's drop everything. Here's your impulse line on this still. Okay, remember, when your piston goes up, the bottom end is under suction. It pulls a vacuum through here. Okay, when the intake port is closed, it squeezes in here, and it starts pushing, right? Think about that. It starts pushing through this impulse line. Okay, guys? So remember, that impulse line is hooked up to here. So think, I mean, the buckin saw is probably going to cut at, 11,000 plus RPM. So every minute, that's going to go push and pull 11,000 times, okay? So that's how that works. Now, under vacuum, okay, and again, these Tillotsons, I've had quite a few. You guys email me, my Tillotson's really rich. It's because, see that? You didn't hook that little tab in there, okay? Okay, if you don't hook that tab in there, think about it this way. Look, it'll bolt down like that, but look, it's all the way open. Okay, so I want to talk to you guys about carburetors in general, especially these Tillotsons. I notice these Tillotsons can be a little funky on the metering lever. Now, one thing I noticed about this carb, see that? There's a little bit of travel on here. I'm just noticing this now. There's a little bit of travel. Okay, look. It's actually not opening the needle right away. So how would we fix that? Well, we could either bend this end or we could go like this, look, okay? Now that's ridiculously high. You guys see that? See how high that is? Okay, look. Now the needle moves. Okay, so this is something you may run into with ported saws. When you port a saw, you might find that some of your saws, especially if you, okay, I'm going to bend this down. Look, so take this. This is how I do it. I'm sure there's smarter ways. Okay, look, there you go. Okay, I want to bend it up just a hair. Okay. Now, this is not a Tillotson tool, but let's pretend that this is a Walbro. This is a Walbro carburetor tool, and it has all the different, okay, HDA, HDB, HDC, SDC, okay. So what you do is you line it up with whatever carb, okay. So let's say it's a WT. Now you'll notice this works for the Tillotson. Okay, look at that. See how it's just barely touching? Okay, notice how it moves. Now, I adjusted that by eye right there because I do these all the time, right? But when you're starting out, most of these are going to be level with your metering chamber, which is this, okay? Look online, there's specs for all these different carburetors. Okay, so the symptoms, if your metering lever is too high, okay, I'm going to bend this up high, okay, way too high just to show you guys. Okay, if your metering lever is too high, what ends up happening is you often have a saw that won't idle. It loads up with fuel. You guys ask me, some of you newcomers, you say, what do you mean loading up with fuel? It's overfueling at idle and it loads up with fuel, meaning you have fuel puddling in the engine, okay? Okay, remember, the carburetor works on vacuum, okay? When the piston goes up, it sucks from the bottom end. The minute that cracks, it pulls a vacuum in there. It will pull enough vacuum that it actually sucks fuel out of the carburetor, okay? That's how a carburetor works, all right? It pulls a vacuum and it pulls through the jets, okay? So if the jets are too big or your metering lever on these is too high, you're letting too much fuel go in on that suction, okay? So you'll just physically be putting too much fuel. Well, what ends up happening, and I can't prove this, but you end up with fuel puddling in your bottom end. Well, what ends up happening over time is too much fuel ends up in the bottom end, okay? And your saw will slowly, it'll be bop, 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 bop. You go to restart it and it's really rich. That's what loading up means. It won't idle. A saw should idle for a tank of fuel, okay? You should be able to throw it down and it should just idle. Now, often that is your low jet, okay? Often that is your low jet. The low jet is always closest to the engine, okay? Air filter, engine, okay? That is your low jet setting. Okay, so often, if your low jet's too rich, you'll have this, you'll say this thing's at 1 turn, okay? Here's 1 turn. Sometimes if your low jet's a little too rich, you might need to give it just, you see that? Just, okay, say that's 1 turn, you might want to turn it in just a hair. And maybe it won't load up, or the idle screw was here. Okay, maybe you need to turn the idle screw up just a little bit. You want it high enough that it'll idle, but not so high that the chain is spinning, right? Centrifugal clutches work on RPM, and at a certain RPM, the weights start to engage. Okay, so if you have a ported saw that tends to go lean or rich, and often, sometimes they're lean on the bottom or they're rich on the bottom, you might, and you can't get it to adjust, and you know the carb's good because say the saw ran. If your saw's too lean, pull your metering lever up, okay? If your saw's too rich, okay, if your saw's too rich, push your metering lever down. Now, I am exaggerating this so you guys can see it. Often we are talking about the width of this metering lever, okay? And if you have your tool, look, way too high, okay? So be aware of that. And again, folks, that was a good video because I got so much good feedback and so many messages. You guys have had carbs. Okay, so remember that a lot of times if you have a fueling issue, not enough fuel or too much fuel over the entire range, it is your metering lever. Okay, at least in my experience. Okay, and these Tillotson carbs on these saws tend to be more finicky on metering lever height. Okay, folks, so I don't know why these don't work, but they don't work. It's probably a combination of machine work that's no good. Maybe the jets are misaligned or misdrilled. Maybe they have crap in them. Or somebody brought this up and I thought, that's not a bad thing. I'm going to bring you guys back. I knocked down my Weatherhead fuel lines thing. Okay, one of you guys mentioned maybe it is the alloy that the carbs are made out of, and I thought, you know, that's possible. It might expand and contract too much with heat cycles, and that is a possibility. I can't remember, I don't know if it was an email or a comment, but one of you guys said that. That's a possibility, and maybe that's why they lose tune as you run them. Like sometimes these will tune, you run the saw, you're done for the day, you throw it in your truck, you go to run it the next day and it doesn't tune. Or it's completely out of whack. Maybe that's why. Maybe it is the heating cycles. I don't know. But anyways, I like showing you guys videos of when I fail because I'm a real guy, friends. I make mistakes. Not every saw I build is like, wow, I'm the greatest. No, that's not how it works. Don't get me wrong, I know my way around a saw, but sometimes you get one that's just, it's a little off. Here's the key though, friends, and I tell people this all the time. If you want to port power saws, make sure you're a good mechanic, a good saw mechanic. The more saws you wrench on, the more saws you rebuild. You're just going to learn stuff. You're going to know which carbs are a little finicky, or you're going to learn which carb kits work, you know, with different carbs, aftermarket versus OEM. You're just going to learn, like, it took me many of these saws to learn, a lot of my ported 266s that I've done, like just a hair more metering lever, and they settle down and they carburate properly. I learned that the hard way, you know, after many saws. And I believe my buddy that owns that 2095, he was a Husqvarna mechanic in the 90s when these things were new. A lot of these little tricks he's kind of taught me, you know, because I run into these problems and then I share them with you guys, because isn't that what this is all about? So anyhow, aftermarket carbs, I'm not saying no. I might try this carb again. I have some ideas, but again, friends, I don't know why this carb wasn't working. Yes, it did sound lean. It was lean sometimes in those videos, but it would go lean and then rich. It would fill the muffler with fuel. It was fouling spark plugs. Not a good deal at all, friends. So, but again, I got so much feedback about, well, what about this? What about that? Metering lever. What about the needle and seat, jets? I just figured I would show you guys this carb and explain a little bit to you the deal. I made that video just to show how a bad carb runs, because often when a bad carb doesn't run right, as a wrench, I just rip it off, throw another one on, because you want to get the build done. Well, that's why I don't take a lot of builds on this channel. If I took too many builds, I would rush through them because I got time, like, you know what I mean? I got to get these saws done. Whereas what we're doing right now, Buckin and I are experimenting with saws. I'm not in a hurry, neither is he. We're learning together, and I get to show you guys on video. That's my channel model, is sharing information. So that's the deal here, and I'm not afraid to break a few eggs. I'm not, you know. I'm not afraid to make mistakes. So anyhow, friends, I'm not against aftermarket parts. I'm going to make a video on aftermarket parts, I think, or at least add a section to a video on aftermarket parts, because I am not against aftermarket parts. I just rarely have an aftermarket carburetor that works. I use aftermarket parts quite often. I think we'll stop this video here. Thank you for all your feedback. You guys get my brain going. I learn from you all the time. So don't ever be afraid to send me an email on something, or an idea you have if I'm having a problem, because a lot of you know a lot about saws and wrenching in general. I learn from you guys all the time. It makes me a better wrench. What kind of a guy would I be if I just pretended to know everything? Think about that. What kind of a guy would I be? I'm not like that, friends. I'm a real guy, just having fun in my shop. If this hobby was easy, I would get bored of it. Saws can be very picky and very difficult, and that's why I enjoy it. They are very picky creatures to make it go fast. So anyhow, friends, thanks for watching. Take her easy, and if I find out more about this carb or make it work, I might explore further into this carburetor and see what the deal is. I will let you guys know. Thanks for watching. Take her easy. Later, guys. Thanks for being here.